Hey everyone, welcome to my home club, Highgate Golf Club. I'm trying something a little different today. I'm going to be doing a strategy chat of the first 5 holes at Highgate. So here we are on the first tee off the white tees, and let's jump into the strategy. Okay, so let's jump into hole 1 here. This is the tee shot that we're looking at. We're looking at sort of a dog leg left. Obviously on Google Earth the elevation is much harder to see, but there's a big dip down here and then everything's uphill towards the green. From the tee shot we've seen, up the left there are trees that kind of block this shot from the back tees, especially here. So going straight for the green is not an option directly in line here, because it would only be a 256 yard carry on a par 4, which is definitely makeable. So here's how I see the strategy. The video here, we're from this back right section of the second tee up here, but even from the back tees, if we use that as the example, we're basically looking at a shot which is over 215 carry is the zone we want to be working in here. If I go top down, we want to get it past the line of these trees here so that we then have a clean shot into the green. If we come up a little short, then that's okay. We've still only got about 60 yards into the middle of the green here, but ideally you want to be putting the ball in this location here. This does 2 things. Firstly, it takes this stuff out of play on the left, and then it also means that the angle that you're hitting from is actually a lot easier, because you can just go straight over the edge of these trees. So these ones aren't in play. Then all you've got to do is carry here. So you've just got to make like a 215 yard carry minimum, and then all the way up to about 250 you've got as range there. So there's quite a lot of range, and from side to side you've obviously got, before you hit these trees, you've got about 53 yards to put it in the gap there. And what it does is it opens up the green so that you end up hitting in on this angle here, where the green is much deeper this way than it would be this way. It takes these bunkers out of play from your approach shot. So from here you'll see I put the ball into this position, and it's a pretty simple chip up into the green, about 30 yards. So the alternate strategy here is, if you don't want to hit that long carry shot, is to put something quite simply down into this bowl. So it's about a 182 shot. You don't really want to go too much further than here, because you get diminishing returns for the difficulty of shot, and you bring this bunker into play. And then from here, you're left with about 95 yards into the middle of this green. I don't like this play because it's uphill. It's hard to judge. You've got a hazard out the back here, so in terms of the strategy around the green, it's not super optimal, and it also makes the angle slightly more different, and these bunkers are definitely in play. Let's say the pin was located, because this is a 2-tier green here, lower tier and upper tier. So if the pin's located on the upper tier, that means the angle you're coming in at is actually very difficult. You're looking at about a 12 yard gap to slot that shot into excuse me, without putting yourself in danger, basically, because this is a big upslope. Anything beyond that, you're looking at hazard or rough and a very difficult up and down. And anything right of that is obviously okay, but on a 2-tier green, you're looking at a big shot. That's why I like to take all of that out of play, put it up here, and you leave yourself a nice, easy chip. And you can get it up on this back tier by hitting a low shot, basically. So here I've got 2-iron in my hand, trying to take advantage of that forward tee position and cut the corner.
Decent hit.
Yeah. Did you mean to go straight that way?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So we end up in this nice position here. I can hit a 60-degree, nice and low, that runs up to the back portion of the green, which will allow pretty simple 2-putt. You can see this is the top tier of the green, and there's a big downslope after that. Hole number 2 here at Highgate. Really nice visual off the tee. I think it presents a challenging tee shot for the golfer. It sort of looks like there's nowhere to go that's safe to hit, but as we'll hear, there is. Hole number 2 presents another interesting challenge with a technical shot required off the tee. as with a lot of the shots on this front five. We've got the fairway up here down the middle, slight dogleg to the right. We've got the third fairway up here, which you can see from the tee is quite open. We got this tree line up the middle, which kind of blocks easy shots, which you would naturally place into here. To the left here, if you hit it in this zone, you get blocked out by the trees that guard the clubhouse. And so we need to think about the strategy here a little bit. You got these two bunkers in the middle of the fairway as well. So let's switch to the top-down view. Obviously, you've got a lot more room to work with the tees back here. But from the white tees, we're looking at trying to hit a shot that covers this bunker on the right, which is at 210 yards. So we're trying to hit like another 215-yard shot off this tee. However, we don't want this shot to go too far. We don't want this to go about 240, because the further up we come this way, the closer we are to getting blocked out by these trees on the left here. So if you were to pull your shot slightly, which is very easy to do as the tee does set up this way, you would be blocked out here from hitting into the green underneath these trees, and you have to chip out sideways. So, and if you flare it to the right, you're in these trees, and it makes the approach much more difficult. So that's how I see the strategy here. You've got 32 yards at this point, maybe a little bit more, 36. But if you move that up a little bit further, now you're blocked out. So it narrows up here. I think it's best to hit something that just about covers this bunker on the right. So you end up in this zone here. This leaves about 110 yards, which is a nice wedge shot into the middle of the green. And it kind of takes this bunker out of play, which is short right. If we look at the green in terms of hazards here, obviously we've got the practice putting green out the back. We've got out of bounds down the left with the car park. We've got this bunker here and a nice safe zone over here to miss kind of long right or just right. So definitely want to be biasing the right hand side here. But this, by hitting a tee shot which puts you into this position far enough up, you reduce the difficulty of this shot and the dispersion becomes a lot tighter with the wedge. Whereas if you were to drop back further, now we're looking at 140, and even further back down here, we're looking at about 160. So it becomes increasingly more difficult the further back you go, but you don't want to go up too far, in my opinion, because you could get blocked out. The risk reward just isn't there, in my opinion. Let's think about alternate strategies here then. So a lot of people, and I have experimented with this with the past, they take driver and they just bomb it as hard as they can, just straight over the middle of this tree line here. This gets you up close to the green. As you can see, it's only 300 yards to this point here. The bailout would be to the right. And so up in this zone, if we have a quick look, this is a hazard here, this ditch. So you're looking at about a 70-yard gap here to fit the driver into. So it's definitely doable, but it does mean that you have to aim in the middle here. So you do have to go over these trees, and you're kind of hoping that it comes into the left side or the right side of your shot pattern. Now, the reason I don't like this play is because of the shot that it leaves you coming in. So if you do come to the right side of your dispersion, you're coming out the rough, potentially blocked by trees, and you're having to carry a bunker here. And this green, although it looks from this angle to be quite deep, you're still looking at only about 18 yards worth of depth here, and this is a downslope from the bunker towards the middle of the green, and then this is kind of a downslope this way. So you can stop it in here, but if you were to go too far, this becomes quite penal over here with some bad lies. So I don't like that angle in. I'd much prefer, I know it's a shorter distance, but I'd much prefer to have this shot coming in this way. Takes the bunker out of play because of the carry, and usually I think the scoring average would play much better there, but that is the alternate strategy. This is a nice 4-iron, which gives us that cover of that second bunker and a nice little draw, which will leave us in a really good wedge position that you can see here. Now, of course, none of it really matters if you chunk the wedge shot quite a bit, but it's okay, we just got to get up and down. You can see from this ground level view of hole 3 that the tee is set up kind of pushing us to the right hand side of the hole. Now that's an interesting one because strategy wise we kind of want to favour the left hand side as everything's going to bounce down to the right. Hole 3, I really like this tee shot. It sets up inside this little alleyway of trees. It visually looks really appealing, and it's a visual illusion in that the only line you can see is kind of just here, but there's a lot of space out to the left as this tree line cuts quite hard from the point that you see to the left and away from you. So I think this hole is an interesting strategy decision. You can just bomb it as far as you possibly can. That definitely is an option, but let's look in a little bit more detail on what I think is the play. From the back tees here, you're looking at about 225 yards before you reach a big downslope that goes all the way this way and to the right very heavily. Anything landing up to the right hand side of the fairway will bounce right and down, and anything landing in here will bounce right and down as well. It's sort of a collection area in here nearby these trees. Then you've got a plateau which is 100 yards to the green here after another big downslope, a big dip, and then the green here. So I think this is a really cool hole. I think the play is to hit about a 225 yard shot. So you end up in this flat-ish area here, and you have roughly 146, 150 yards into the middle of the green, which should be a relatively easy one to hit. And you're just looking to hit the green in 2-putt basically, because around this green to the left hand side of it, it's pretty nasty. But let's keep focusing on the tee shot just for now. At this point, you've got a nice wide 40 yards to slot an iron into, or some kind of wood. To the right here, you can get away with hitting it over here, but anywhere further right than this and further down, if you hit it too far off the tee, and you're going to be blocked out by these trees here, which means you're going to have to hit a low punch towards this green, which is not super easy to do. That's why I think driver here is not the play. So if you were to smash driver, and let's say you get like a 260 carry, so we're looking at like a release out, yes, you could end up in this plateau, which would be lovely, but you have to aim quite far left. You have to aim about here in order to get the bounce down. So you bring this into play, you bring the being blocked out by these trees into play. Let's say you snap one, you can be in these trees, you might not even get it past this tree in the first place, and then let's say you hit it to the right, you're blocked out by these trees. Okay, you hit a perfect shot, you're on the plateau, you're just beyond the plateau, and you've got 74 yards. Yes, that's going to be strokes gained, but the risk reward just isn't there in my opinion. It's much better to just be in play and then hit the green from 150 yards, 2-putt, walk away happy. Let's just have a little look at the green. We've got these 2 bunkers here which don't really come into play for the majority of the green, you can see. So as long as you're hitting your yardage correctly, it shouldn't really be in play. To the left-hand side, you definitely don't want to miss here. This is nasty, nasty up and down territory with horrible slopes up towards the next tee box. You don't want to be here. Out the back is dead as well, but a little easier to play, but you don't want to be messing with that either. To the right-hand side is definitely the miss. You've got a lot of space, a lot of room to work with, and you'll be chipping back with a lot of green to work with as well. So it's nice and open now. They removed some of these trees which were here before, which I disagree with, but there you go. That's how they wanted to do it. And that's the play. So again, using 2-iron here for positioning, layers a little bit further back than it would be with driver, and also increase the accuracy. Just pausing here for a second so you can see the approach shot. We want to be middle of the green here, off a downslope. So this was not a very good golf shot, heely, standing a bit too close to it, but as you can see we picked the right club and we can get away with that. We're on the green and we're looking at pretty simple 2-putt, to be honest. Just left this one about a foot short of the hole. This is hole number 4, which is the first of the par 3s. I think it's a great golf hole. It requires a good shot. Okay, continuing on to hole 4 here. We've got a nice short par 3, 116. Usually plays about 123, 125 yards because of the slight uphill. You've got these 4 bunkers which guard it, but in my opinion, these two aren't really in play, and these two, you should just be hitting a shot that covers them, basically. The miss here is long left. This is a very narrow green in terms of its width. It's only 13 yards, 14 yards across, so you will miss this green and you have to be okay with that. You've got to be okay with getting up and down from these positions. In my opinion, long left is the easier position, so that would be my suggestion. So a nicely struck 48-degree wedge here follows our plan of going a little bit deep into the green. Obviously it was a little bit too far, as we now have this long range putt which I left short. Speed is so important for putting. I thought that was a great putt, but it just didn't break quite enough. Obviously on slower greens the ball breaks less. So anyway, 3-putt, but the strategy was correct. On to hole 5 now. Hole 5 is a classic risk-reward par 4 here at Highgate. You've got the tees back here, and the carry to the green is 324. So you can drive this green in summertime. It's not too difficult. However, in my opinion, that is not the correct decision. There is the only water hazard on the course, which is hidden by Google Earth under this tree here. So it pinches in on the right hand side. Obviously you've got out of bounds on the right, and everything in this zone is basically dead. Like, unless you can hit a hero shot, you're more likely than not going to hit the green, if that makes sense. So I don't think that's the play. In my opinion, this should be a very simple shot, a layup shot, if you will, off the tee. 215 yards. It rarely plays that far anyway. And then from there, you've only got about 115 into the middle of this green. That is a nice, easy, stress-free par 4. And sometimes you're going to hit a great wedge shot and you're going to have a good look at birdie, as opposed to hitting driver. You've only got 50 yards here until you're reaching these trees, and even further left, I mean 70 yards, and you're into this stuff here, and you're looking at out of bounds on the right hand side, lost ball territory, water hazard. I just don't think it's the play, unless you're feeling unbelievable. Let's have a quick look at the green then in terms of an approach shot. So the approach, these bunkers only guard this very front portion of the green, this kidney shaped bunker on the left here, but the green is actually relatively okay. It's about 16 yards, so I always think middle of the green here is the play, just because it isn't that wide. It's quite narrow, so you do want to just hit the middle of the green. It's a back to front sloped green this way, so any putt that you hit a little bit short will be leaving an uphill putt to the flag, which is always nice. Out the back here is kind of no-go territory. You got a tricky up and down onto a downhill. To the right again is not really ideal. So you sometimes, if you are going to miss, you probably want to miss in this left, short left kind of zone to give yourself a lot of green to work with. Otherwise, you're looking at potential lost ball territory over on the right hand side, or difficult up and down with tricky lies over the back. So on this day, the wind was a little bit behind, so I took 7-iron for positioning. Nice tee shot here. This leaves this wedge shot, I believe it was about 135 yards. downwind with that 48 degree again. It's just a perfect yardage. Middle of the green, just like the strategy said. So left this one right in the jaws, about a foot short again. As you can see, speed of putting is crucial when playing with correct strategy. You're going to hit a lot of greens and it all comes down to the putting to score. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Obviously a bit of a different kind of vibe. Hopefully it was interesting, talking about the course strategy a little bit more, and let me know, give me some feedback. Thanks.